Listen, my theories for this show have often been wrong, but when they are right, oh boy, are they right. Also, I am wearing this because Jeremiah is freshly released from villain jail. That's right, Jeremiah, congratulations on your release. This episode, wow. If you had told me last week, will Jeremiah get redemption by the end of the show? I was honestly thinking no. I was honestly like, no, I actually don't think he will. I don't know that they have it in them. This entire episode was about growth, reconciliation, the characters going after what they want, becoming their own individuals, and I think that's why we purposely see them pretty separate, but we have these like pivotal moments where we kind of see them all together, covering a lot of ground. And I know some people in my live stream last night, which if you're not familiar, I do a live stream every Summer I Turn Pretty episode, and next week, because it's the finale, please don't speak to me, I will cry, is going to be our last one. I would love for you to join me, so please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get notified when I go live. We had a great time dissecting Jeremiah's little arc, and some of you had mentioned that you thought that it might have been a little bit of a rushed episode, that you felt like it covered too much ground, that you are sad that we didn't cover certain things with Benito, or that last week's episode was so slow and then this week's episode was so fast. And while I do agree that the juxtaposition of 9 and 10 episode-wise being right next to each other, they are wildly different episodes, they cover wildly different things, and they have wildly different paces. I do think it was so important to, one, put time and distance between the wedding and the eventual finale and where we all want this to end up, which is with Belly and Conrad together. Having last week's episode and really having to sit for, in our heads, basically 2 weeks from when we know that Jeremiah and Belly are over and she leaves the wedding to the point where we actually see the characters like moving on. That being a 2-week span, because you think about this like within the story, and if you're binging the show, obviously it's going to be a different experience, but this show is purposely released week to week. And so having an episode that takes place over 24 hours, like episode 9, and then following that up with an episode that takes place over the course of a year, which is episode 10, and having those be spread out week to week, it really gives you as the viewer the feeling that there has been enough time for this change to occur. Like I said last week, all of the obstacles by the end of episode 10 are out of the way for Belly and Conrad to be together, except Benito, who we'll get to later. But starting on our growth journey for all our characters and checking in with everyone, let's talk about Jeremiah, because as I said, he's been released from villain jail. Jeremiah has redeemed himself, which I last week genuinely did not think possible, and I was really genuinely thinking that Jenny Han was going to make this like a sticking point that like, hey, Jeremiah's like never gonna be over this, and like maybe rightfully so. This episode, dare I say I liked Jeremiah? I mean, listen, I have been the girl who's been Team Conrad since the very first second I saw the very first episode of this show, and have continued to be so like throughout the entire run of the show. But I love Jeremiah when he's not dating Belly. I think he's so fun, the way he talks about Denise's gram and how he's into cooking now. Like all of these facets of his personality, I feel like we're so lost and muted, probably by the grief of losing his mother, of he and Belly's difficult dynamic, of him trying to be macho to Conrad. Whereas when you look at him this episode, he is just sweetheart golden retriever Jeremiah, who I get why Team Jeremiah girlies liked him in the first place. I think what's important about this episode is you really see Belly and Jeremiah grow, and they can't do that together. I also think it's just she doesn't have the love for him to be that kind of person with him. I just think it's so nice to get to see them both grow. One of my favorite elements of the episode was when Jeremiah called Belly on New Year's Eve, basically checks in with her and is like, I don't want to talk about the past, but I did want to get over the like concept of calling you, because I feel like you build it up in your head whenever you have a breakup or a friend breakup, when you're like still going to be in touch with that person eventually, you want to move on from things, but sometimes it's really hard because you feel like everything needs to be addressed in that first text message or phone call or communication. And I really loved that moment. Honestly, like some of my favorite elements of this episode included Jeremiah fixing things with people, and I just really appreciated that. I think everything was done in such a way that throughout the episode, I didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but by the end, I got exactly what I wanted. And I just think that that's masterful storytelling. Jeremiah not being at Thanksgiving, not coming in at Christmas, I think leaves this build up. And I think there's this perfect moment. The fact that they reconcile and like have that first conversation at Susannah's grave when their fight, like their drag out, knockdown fight the day of the wedding, was at her memorial garden. That is cinema. You can't tell me otherwise. Susannah always said, you will always come back together no matter what. You will always have each other and you always have this place. And I think the fact that both boys reveal their like final, I'm gonna get emotional, their final promises to their mom, and the fact that they had to do with each other of like, don't let anything come between you, and also like be there for each other, protect each other. It's just so heartwarming that they, as these two adults who now have had like so much hurt and things happen between them can actually come together and be honest. And I love the line that Jeremiah gives him, because you don't get something like this in the book. It's implied, but you don't get it, of Jeremiah saying, like, I never could compete with what you guys had. And so don't, like, not go after her on, that's a double negative. I keep using double negatives.
That's a double negative.
You're a double negative.
Go after her if that's what you want. Don't expect me to be happy about it, but also don't blow it. Like, don't blow your shot at this. And I think that is such an important line, because when Jeremiah is talking, the whole conversation is my favorite, because when Jeremiah is talking about Christmas and he goes, it perfectly lines up with Skinny Love. And when he says, like, I just knew the second that we talked about Christmas, like, it was going to be over. And so I was just, trying to make the relationship last as long as possible, because Jeremiah recognizes that as much as Belly might love him and see him as a close friend and may have formerly had, like, romantic feelings towards him, that is not as infinite, should we say, as her relationship with Conrad. And I just, chef's kiss. I loved it. I love that whole conversation. I thought it was executed so well, and it was amazing. Also, I love this arc for Jeremiah of getting into cooking, and I do have a theory that I'm not going to say for the end. I think Jeremiah and Denise are getting set up to be together, because in the book, on Lee and Conrad's wedding day, Jeremiah is with a girl. Denise would not be talking about her love life with Jeremiah unless that was something that was going to be important for the story. And so I just feel like that was such a beautiful moment, and I think them as friends really work. Also, the fact that Denise is so put together. Denise and Conrad are both kind of like the responsible people that I think Belly and Jeremiah need. And I just love Denise so much. I love her. She's been such a great addition to the season, and Denise girl, I just love you. I love you. Now to our main attraction, Belly girl. Belly has bloomed. Belly has really grown into herself in Paris. The fact that she makes the choice to stay there, and it's a choice that you can tell she's excited about and she knows she wants within her heart. She's just like, I think she's finally gotten to the point where she knows how to go after things and be honest about her feelings, which so many of you have pointed out. Belly's number one issue with Conrad is the fact that she's never been able to, like, properly acknowledge her feelings for him, because she's always scared of, like, getting hurt or something like that. And I think in this episode, it's like, she's not scared of getting hurt anymore. She's scared of hurting other people, but she's also realizing that that can't be helped. And so I think she's gotten to this beautiful place where she knows how to articulate what she wants. She knows how to go for it. She knows to live on her own. And I think that is beautifully represented, not just by her staying in Paris and having the apartment in Paris, but her French. So we were all mocking her last week, like, Belly girl, how did you get a study abroad spot in France? You speak no French, which I will say certain study abroad programs are that way. Like, you don't have to speak the language very well. But Belly, now in France for a year, speaks fluent French. It's beautiful. It's articulate. She knows how to even talk to a landlord about a plumbing problem, which that is not vocabulary you're just going to get right off the bat in French class probably. And so I just love that for her. I love seeing her bloom. I love seeing her get to grow. I feel like that was such a beautiful way to show her growth over the year without explicitly being like, I feel different. Like even though we get her narration in the show, it's never used in a cheap way, I think. And I think the French is just an excellent way to show, not tell, that she has grown, that she has developed, that she's become a different person than she was when we saw her last episode. And then, of course, she's got a new non-Fisher boy, which I have seen some torn up emotions about Benito, our Spanish lover boy. What I don't understand is some people are mad because they're like, oh, they're making Benito like way more serious of a romantic interest and not like a fling. I think it's very clear Belly is like not like in love with Benito, or else like I think we would have gone voiceover narration about it. Like there's so many language of this TV show and the way that it is structured as a piece of media that showcase Belly's emotions and how she feels about things. We get a lot of narration about Conrad. We get some narration too about Jeremiah. We do not get any about Benito, to my understanding of what I'm remembering. I haven't gotten to rewatch the episode yet. I'm filming it like the morning after I watched this. And so apologies if I'm not remembering everything correctly. But it just doesn't make sense to me because we've all, like, I've seen people complaining that they wanted Belly to like move on from the boys or like have a break or like whatever. And also this is from the book, so this is not like a new edition. It's not something that's changed. I just think that in the book, she's only there for, I think, 6 months or maybe a year in Paris. And Benito is referred to as a fling. And because we're having to see him a lot this episode, people are taking it as like being more serious for Belly. They're also technically not together if she breaks up with him in May, which I'll go through briefly the timeline of what I think this show takes place and this episode specifically. But I don't think she's with him any longer than she's with Conrad. And obviously, like, I don't know how to defend this beyond the fact that we get narration about Conrad. Belly has all these flashbacks about Conrad. Conrad is explicitly stated as being Belly's first love. And yes, she's been a teenager over this time, and we haven't gotten to see more adult Belly in love with Conrad and in a relationship with him. But I think there's things like, you don't fight with somebody the way that Belly and Conrad fought on the beach if you don't love them, okay? You don't fight like the prom thing. The whole reason she's upset at prom is because she loved him and she thinks that he moves on too fast at the funeral with Aubrey, even though that was a panic attack. And she's upset at prom because she's been there for him and trying to support him through his mom's illness and sickness and like be a support system for him. That is love. Like, love is not just like love letters or all the yearning that Conrad has been doing for Belly. It is like a genuine choice and action and a relationship. I will defend Belly till the end of the earth. I will defend Conrad till the end of the earth. And honestly, at this point, Jeremiah, buddy, you're looking pretty good. So I just think her with Benito is important for the story, because then Belly's entire life is not just flip-flopping between Conrad, Jeremiah. There's somebody else. She's experienced what I assume to be a non-firework relationship with him. And there's a lot to be dissected about the way that it's filmed when she kisses Benito and the fireworks shot afterwards. And we don't know. Is there going to be another time skip at the end of the episode or of next week's episode? Was there a time skip at the end of this one? I have some theories about that. We don't know, actually. Like, we have no clue. But all I know is that I think Belly having a Benito is fair to see in the show because, one, it's from the books, and two, because people have been like wanting her to like live her own life and grow. And I know it's maybe not what I would personally do, and it's maybe not like a great piece of advice, but I don't think that Belly being with Benito means that she doesn't love Conrad, specifically because she literally was with Jeremiah. And so by nature of her being with Jeremiah, if you can accept that she was with Jeremiah for 4 years and still loves Conrad, I don't understand why Benito would change that. And maybe if I'm getting people's opinions about Benito wrong, let me know. I think that was a lot of sentiment, and we discussed it a lot on stream, but I think it was something I wanted to address here. Okay, and now moving on to Connie Baby. Connie Baby was just excellent this episode. I'm glad we got to see him. I'm glad he fixed things with him and Steven. I'm glad he fixed things with he and Jeremiah. I'm glad that he showed up for holidays. Some of my favorite moments, the Polaroid that he pulls out of his desk, the fact that he has a yellow pad of paper that he writes Belly on. I don't know, for some reason that just felt very Conrad, and I loved that. The postcard in his wallet, because that's from the book, and then the letters that he sends her, like, they're just, everything was so perfect Conrad wise this episode. The Sour Patch bag and the Junior Mint. A lot of you have astutely pointed out that I don't think anybody but Belly knows that the infinity necklace is on Junior Mint's, like under the scarf. Taylor doesn't see it in the episode. I don't think Conrad knows about it. I think it's just implied that like Belly is the only one that knows about that. And so like, even though Conrad is just sending her like this stuffed animal being like, hey, like, I'm thinking about you, like, here's this thing that means a lot to both of us, Belly is getting like a different interpretation with the infinity necklace. Also the fact that Conrad is still going to therapy, like, heal yourself, buddy boy, like, I'm so happy for you. And the fact that he's going to Paris. Listen, I never thought this was going to happen. I definitely was in the theory that this was not going to happen last episode, that everything was a fake out. I am so excited because I have no idea what happens next. And I just know it's going to be good for Belly and Conrad, and that's why I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see whatever messy but hopeful, happy ending that Jenny Han writes and puts in the show. I just think it's going to be so, so good. Then Adam Fisher, even in this episode, made me excited because he didn't fire Steven, and he cut Jeremiah off, which ended up being so good for him because he starts working at the restaurant and having a job that he actually cares and loves and a passion, and he leans on his friends exactly the way Adam said last episode he was going to, which it's just so crazy how all the talking from last week's episode really plays off here. I mean, last episode I just think is so pertinent, and I get why people might be upset that so much happened in episode 10 but not as much happened in episode 9, that imbalance is bothering people, but so much happened in episode 8, and also so much happened in episode 7 that I'm just kind of like, we needed a downer episode, not because it's a bad episode, but we needed to introduce a couple of elements, and most importantly, like I said last week, we needed to get Steven and Taylor reunited. Do you see with the way this episode went, how it would be so dissatisfying if Steven and Taylor all of a sudden are just together? Like, Taylor just goes to Paris for New Year's and is like, Steven and I are back together, we're moving in together. Like, we needed that time, and I knew that was like the purpose that episode 9 served, and so that's why I'm like such a fan of it, because I see them working through all the things the fans want in a way that makes sense and feels genuine for the characters. Also the fact, like, random tidbits, Laurel is there for the Fisher boys and her own kids in a way that, like, she was kind of criticized last season for not being by Belly specifically. So I loved getting to see that. And then Lucinda is paying Taylor back. Taylor and Steven are moving in together. Like, all of these characters I love so dearly, so much, and I'm so happy. I just was so satisfied with this episode. The idea to take it as like a year in the life, to call it last year, which is either like the last year of Belly's life, so her 21st year, basically, like the year she was 21 because she's about to turn 22 in the show when she's getting her haircut. Anyway, so I loved getting to see this, and I loved getting to see these characters in like different situations, different circumstances, because I think everything just feels so earned. Like, however the finale ends, it's going to feel like we spent the time we wanted with these characters. We saw the growth from them, that nobody is leaving as like an absolute villain or monster, or that nobody is like 100% the hero, good guy, like never done any wrong. This episode was about the nuance of growth and life and grief and relationships, and how hard those can be, and how they change over time, and how sometimes they're messy and they're not neat, and it's really important. So I really, really liked that. And then I have a couple of Easter eggs I noticed. So they faked us out in the trailer. So here's a screenshot of the trailer where Belly is working at the cinema club. And here is a shot from the show when Belly is working from the cinema club. The poster, the Sabrina poster, is different. They swapped it out, which I was like, that's so sneaky. The Sabrina poster is everywhere in this. Belly has the Sabrina poster like in her room. Like they started to get like not even Easter eggy about it. Like it follows her from the old French apartment to her new France apartment. I just think it's crazy that for the show they faked it out. I'm used to that kind of stuff for Marvel. I am not used to it for The Summer I Turned Pretty, so that's crazy. Also, in the book, Conrad, we find out about Benito and her being over and the fact that Belly's cut her hair shorter in the same letter. And so to me, Belly getting her haircut at the end of the episode is an implication that she and Benito have ended things. So for a quick little timeline, which almost gave me an aneurysm during the live stream, Susannah dies April 14th of 2023. And they mention at the grave where Conrad and Jeremiah reconcile that it's been 5 years since her death. So it's the 5-year anniversary of her death. So that makes it 2028 diegetically. And then Belly's birthday is supposed to be towards the end of June in the show. And in April, around the time she moves into her new apartment, I'm going to guess that's either late April, early May, Benito is talking about her going with him to Mexico. And we don't know what her answer is. Then we see Conrad going in June. Agnes goes, I don't remember it being this hot last June. Conrad is going to Brussels in June, which is also when Belly's birthday is. And so when we see him change his flight and Belly get the haircut, my indication is Belly going for a haircut equals she and Benito are over. And she also immediately says to the hairdresser, like, I have plans with friends next week, not with a boyfriend, which I feel like you would say, like, if it was Benito. Maybe not. Again, speaks to the whole fling thing. But who's to say? Also, we have seen everything from the trailer now at this point, because that last shot of her like walking alone, everything, all of that has been in the show so far. It was mostly in this episode, a lot in last week's episode. So we've seen it all. So we genuinely are flying blind for the last episode, which last time we did this, I was like in shock. This time I'm just so excited because the last 2 episodes for me covered everything I needed them to. And yeah, obviously I can say this week's episode was way more exciting than the week before, but I think they are good and serve different purposes, and they are important for those different reasons. So final theories. Sorry, my hair clip is falling out. My theories are Jared's going to go to Paris at some point for culinary school. So there were some leaks potentially of Jeremiah and Gavin Casalegno filming in Paris, and I think he's maybe there for culinary school. I don't know if Belly's immediately going to come back home. I don't think she would do that necessarily for Conrad. He's still in med school, so there's probably going to be some long distance if they immediately get back together in Paris. But I do think Jared might go to Paris for culinary school. It would just make sense, and I think it would prove how far he's come, that he's found this entirely new passion and ambition. I do also, as I said earlier, think that Denise and Jared are going to end up together. I don't know how much of that romantic relationship we're going to see develop, but I think they have really firmly set it up to where even if they just imply it later on, it kind of would make sense. The only other random theory I had is if they did a spinoff with Jeremiah, Redbird, and Denise and did a whole other love triangle show. I do not think that's going to happen. That's a joke theory. That's not a real theory. Also, I think the theory is that I think Conrad goes to try to see Belly, and Belly's either not there because she's away on her birthday trip or whatever, or maybe he sees her and Benito together if they're not fully broken up, even though I think they are. And then I think he goes to see her after Brussels. Now, I feel like the cost of the adjustment to the ticket is key and important. I don't know exactly why though, but we're going to find out next week. And guys, it has been such an honor and a privilege and such a joy, genuinely a highlight of the last month of my life to talk to you guys about this show. This show means so much to me. It's such a fun show. This fandom is so passionate and incredible. We dig for Easter eggs and all this kind of stuff, and it means a lot to me. The fact that you guys have found me and supported my channel and listened to me yap day after day, night after night about this show, freak out, all of the screams and gasps and crying that I've had over this show. It means the world to me. I am trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you're not subscribed, it would really mean a lot to me if you were able to help me get to that goal. Join our little fangirl community here. It would mean so much to me. But genuinely, like, you guys have changed the course of my channel over the last month, just covering the second half of this third and final season of the show. It means more to me than I could ever put into words. So I, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for watching this video and all the others. I hope you have an absolutely amazing day or night whenever you're getting to watch this, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, y'all.